Hello and welcome, everyone. This is your GM in the Great Barrier, broadcasting from the center of your entertainment galaxy, and wishing you a happy Juneteenth weekend, and welcoming you to another edition of Star Trek Adventures Aegis. We are picking up with part two of the Groundskeeper. Um, when last we left off, the starship Aegis, after the mission that they had at Alpha Centauri, had arrived back at Earth, where their previous commanding officer, Captain Barton, was reassigned, and they were informed by Admiral Forrest that the Makos would be sending an officer to replace them. They were going to rendezvous in that position, which eventually the Aegis met with the starship Franklin and picked up one Colonel Lillian Sharp, a Mako, who had been promoted to a command rank and very smoothly assumed command from there. They received orders after that, telling them to proceed the to a star system where the starship Crozier, an old surveying vessel, was meant to report back from, but had been long overdue. So the Aegis set a course for HD 85512, and so far as they could tell, it appeared to be an uninhabited system, but with a couple anomalies. Uh, First, with HD 85512b, one of the basically super Earths in the system, they discovered that while the world was indeed mostly uninhabitable, there was a small bubble, essentially, where there were signs of not simply Earth normal environmental conditions, but gravity, and even possibly a small castle type area. But before they decided to explore that, they first visited the completely dead Starship Crozier, found in a orbit that is steadily becoming more eccentric and flying out from the planet. The away team docked on board and, scattering with a small engineering team and a couple of power cells, they found the ship completely bereft of any power, and indeed anything that would help restart the ship's main power. The engineering team, led by Dr. Lambeth and Commander Romanov, discovered that the engines were quite dead, but that they received orders to go to sickbay from the other crew, led by Colonel Sharp with Lieutenant Commander Patel, who discovered logs suggesting that most of the crew might have gone down to that planet, convinced by a figure by the name of Tussaud that there was something wonderful awaiting them down there. And before they could unravel that mystery, the team that went to sickbay, they made it down, and they thought there might be signs of a crewman that was left behind. They indeed discovered one, when they hooked up power to an imaging chamber. As the doors opened, as the power came back, a long dead, the long dead body of that last crewman came out on the biobed. And so that is where we will pick up, back in the medical bay of the SS Crozier's, yes, of the SS Crozier. Dr. Lambeth, Commander Romanov, I suppose I should ask you two first, since this is where we pick up from the last week's cliffhanger. Uh, how much would you say the jump scare gets you? It, are you able to persevere, be relatively mellow about the situation?
I think, um, yeah, I think Dr. Lambeth is startled by it, but immediately composes himself. Like, yeah,
Romanov's gonna use some of her what is it? Sus it's the
Sushman,
yes.
more tapping the Vulcan discipline that she's
Yeah.
been exposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can say that you would probably attribute some of it to that training, but even then, there's an unusual serene quality to what you experience as the body comes out of the or it comes out of the imaging chamber. Uh, for his part, the Chief Vernier, the engineer that came with you, um, he's going to be slightly startled. Like there'll be an audible gasp over the suit comms, but uh, maybe a light, heartfelt expletive under his breath. But otherwise, he'll regain his composure pretty quickly.
Walking over to the control area, what was the last program initiated when this bed rolled in there, assumedly with his body alive?
You would be correct. It seems as though it seems as though the program was in the midst of a treatment cycle of some sort. Very specifically, it appears as though the imaging chamber was programmed to actually administer a regimen of Omicron radiation exposure. And this is a very rare and difficult sort of, very hard on most forms of life, such that it would be medically strongly inadvisable outside of the most extreme circumstances, even with the
This is
relatively controlled nature of it. You would know, Romanov, just from your expertise, that part of the reason why this might have discontinued is that Omicron radiation tends to be a byproduct that starships and certain ground facilities can work with as a byproduct of matter-antimatter interaction.
got it. Preserve that data immediately and let the doc take a look at this.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. See if
I
I
think
can
he was
find
trying to
cause
self-treat
stuff.
himself, but Omicron radiation's a pretty extreme choice.
As in, he was trying to treat himself with Omicron radiation.
Yeah.
So do I think that does that look like what's caused his injuries, or
Hmm.
was
Um,
it a side effect? Was it something that didn't work to stop the thing?
well, I'll ask you, I guess, depending
Yeah.
on are you pulling out a scanner or are you just trying to look over the body and like with the Mark One eyeball tap your medical knowledge to guess at what probably got this gentleman.
Is there a benefit for going with the eyeball over the scanner? Like,
Um, not especially that I could think of.
okay, then I think he just goes for the. He's gonna, just use the scanner.
Okay, reason and medicine. I will ask you for a difficulty. Let's call this a difficulty 3 roll, just because I've been a nice GM and I have left momentum
Ooh.
around for your usage.
Yeah, let's have some of that momentum, please. Is everyone okay if I use 3 of it for 2
Yeah.
extra dice?
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Romanov, if you care to drop that momentum, please.
Okay. That is.
Exactly 3.
That
Okay.
is 3 successes. So it takes a bit of scanning in order to, or rather, you really have to fine tune the scanner for this one because of the nature of the situation. This crewman died like probably about a month ago. partly you suspect the radiation pretty severely weakened them, but also there seem to be signs that such that they might have survived past that, um, between additional wear on like fingernails and whatnot, like signs of strain against restraints. There's probably a situation where this crewman was receiving treatment. It was cut short, and with whatever strength they had, they tried to get out, but with no power left, they were unsuccessful. Um, and probably to an extent, the with life support giving out and with the chamber sealed, they didn't have very long. But they at least didn't have to suffer too much. That being
So
said,
it,
yeah, that being said,
so it looks like the cause of death was life support giving out.
that would
Or
uh, that would stand to reason, but there were other problems that were going to start manifesting for this gentleman pretty quickly. In part, that the radiation treatment was a bit miscalibrated, or it was so excessive that there are signs that the essentially this man was starting to degrade in some ways. Circulatory function was starting to break down. Muscle tissue was showing signs of damage. There's just a lot of signs of radiation poisoning. That is to say that uh, the doses he received were heavy, and to the extent that there are anti-radiation treatments in this day and age, which I would imagine, um, given the given both the nature of the Third World War and the post-atomic war and all that, I would imagine that that is an area of technology that in Star Trek would have advanced considerably. Um, but those treatments seemingly were never administered, likely because of like how this crewman just seemed to have been forgotten or left behind, or circumstances otherwise prevented them um, from receiving that. So there's certainly signs of that. Dehydration probably set in, but not before they asphyxiated in the chamber. Essentially, um, the it, even if life support had lasted for a while longer, this man could not have escaped the confines of the chamber. So any number of other causes would have contributed to it eventually.
okay. Well, it looks like, I mean, cause of death was basically just life support giving out. Looks like he was undergoing treatment for some kind of stuff that would have killed him eventually, and the treatment would have killed him eventually. But yeah, I don't know. Whatever happened, they stopped treating him in the middle of treatment, and then life support switched off.
Yeah, those those certainly stand to reason. Additional information I can give you: the Omicron radiation has mostly degraded at this point. It is not something that lasts too terribly long.
Okay,
Um,
so
but
we're
he is
safe.
still he's very slightly radioactive still. You're probably safer to remain in your suits. Um,
Yeah. Also,
but
don't go poking his corpse or anything because he's still a little radioactive.
yes, yes. Um, Otherwise, with the radiation that's been administered, there aren't a lot of signs of. There isn't much in the
Mm.
way of what the scanner can tell you in terms of what may have been afflicting this man in the first place. Although there may be some residual signs of sort of unusual biochemical and slightly, I would say, part biochemical, impart somewhat very slight elevated levels of like certain minerals and inorganic compounds in his what essentially remains of his bloodstream. Not to say that he has any circulation left or had it at some point, but those are unusual compounds you're detecting within the body.
Okay. Um, so you want to update the kernel on this stuff?
Well, there's one other thing I want to look at in here. Bring up all medical logs of nurses and doctors just before, the events began going bad on the ship. Just before that shut down. See if there's
Yeah,
any
okay.
mention of unusual cases, an increase in the amount of patients coming in.
Yeah, maybe see if we can find the. Yeah, that kind of thing sounds good.
I'll open it up. I'll open it all up for Dr. Lambert, because he's the pro. He'd know how to look at this stuff and zero in.
I mean, he's very much not used to working with records, so he knows what all the words on there mean, but he's like you're probably just as versed, if not better versed, in how Starfleet stores information.
Okay, then let me sit down, but you're looking over my shoulder. Okay?
Yeah.
Got it.
Well,
So I'll bring everything up in terms of time. Well, yeah, I don't know if you want to roll for this.
I will ask for a roll to access some of these systems here.
Okay.
So I would like a control and engineering roll from you, Commander Romanov, and I am going to spend one threat to increase the complication range on that to 2.
Oh, okay. Okay, my complication range is now 2.
Correct?
Right. Should I throw out an assist as well?
Yes, please.
You may do so. I'd say.
And does my complication range increase as well?
I believe that it does for an assist roll.
And it's increasing by 2, so it's
No,
3.
it increases to. It increases by 1 for you, so only a
Okay.
maximum of 2.
1, 2, 2.
Yes. I'm going to say insight and medicine, since you are essentially looking over Commander Romanov's shoulders and kind of witnessing the reports and letting things be pieced together.
I have computers, so I'm using that as a focus.
Okay.
And let's see. We have 3 momentum, guys, but I also have a value. Every problem has a solution. I could invoke that now if you guys want to save the momentum.
That is up to you.
The reason I throw it out is it would bring us down to 2 momentum. If I spend 2 on this because he increased the threat range, so that means, there's more risk involved.
I'm fine with either.
Risk is part of our business. Do it.
Yeah.
do whatever you want.
I'm going to spend 2 momentum.
There's your Star Trek bingo for the day, everyone.
Yeah, everybody fill out your cards.
That's for 2. I get 2 more dice.
In order to buy 2
3.
additional dice, you would have to spend 3 momentum. It's an escalating cost for each time you purchase additional momentum. So 1 will buy you 1 additional die, 3 buys you 2 additional dice, and then it takes a full 6 in order to buy a full 3 dice with momentum.
You guys want me to spend 3? We'll be at 0.
Well, if you
Yeah,
beat
spicy.
yeah, I'll say if you beat the difficulty 2 task, anything above that does go back to your pool. So it could be a spend it to make it scenario. Depends on how much you trust RNGesus.
Yep.
Okay. So I got to go ahead, do it.
Do as you wish.
Go for it. Go for whatever you wish.
And see, you...
Nice.
Oh dear, oh dear. That is a total of 7 successes there, which easily exceeds the 2 momentum, or the difficulty of 2.
Rating 2, just like Spock with computers. Well, not quite rating 2. I'll say rating 3.
Yes. Well, at any rate, Romanov, I see you didn't drop the momentum there, so I will just add in the additional 2 for you, and that will go... Let's see, that'll go to you. So it does take a moment, and you have to work very carefully with the computers. Um, the key reason being that due to the abrupt shutdown, you find that there is risk of compromising some of the files.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
people didn't get a chance to save their work properly, and there was probably some degradation or other bits of damage that could have nearly been incurred from this. So, with some very cautious effort on your part, you managed to pour through some of the last medical logs. Indeed, after a stretch of time, you go through some of the most recent medical reports. Recent being at this point a couple months back for the most part, most of which seem fairly routine. You pull the the obvious Simon Pegg line from Star Trek Beyond, skip to the end, and you skip around to a couple logs, to which a medical officer seems to be discussing the fate of, just for the fun of it, um, one crewman LaBelle. Rather, this would be a specialist LaBelle. Um, I must say, the doctor that you see on screen says, um, specialist his time down there, he's had much more difficulty since he returned separating. I'm I'm very much looking forward to going back myself, but as the nurse tells me, given the unusual, given the unusual biochemical introduction and what seems to be technology working at near microscopic levels, I find their resilience rather diverting. I'm diverted. I would much prefer to return, but I think that right now we're going to go with the nurse's suggestion and attempt a regimen of some sort of radioactive treatments. They may be more responsive than to our biochemical compounds, so we'll see what happens. I obviously, well, I very much want to go back down there, but the others must also go down too, so I will remain behind and do what I can to set up the treatments. Yes, I'm looking forward to going back. And that is essentially the last log that you see with regard to the fate of Specialist LaBelle.
LaBelle was the name of the person in the chamber, right?
Yes. LaBelle is the corpse.
Okay, Doc, all that part is your turf. I get the idea that he was inferring some kind of bio microscopic technology, nanotech.
Hmm.
Are there any scan records of what he was talking about? Like if they were treating it, did they scan it?
Hmm. I will allow you to spend a momentum to try and obtain that information.
I would like to do so if everybody is okay with that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. This is the medical scan data. And I'm capturing this on my data pad. I'm backing everything up in triplicate.
Hmm. Doctor, from what you are seeing on this, there does indeed seem to be the presence of what would seem to be some sort of nanotechnology at work. Um, they are interacting very slightly with components of the crewman's physiology. However, they it doesn't seem to be doing anything terribly significant, or it without without essentially more of a live active sample, you're not entirely sure of their function, but it seems as though they are just steadily building up in the bloodstream. There seems to be data suggesting they aren't actively interfering with any biological process or indeed um, affecting or taking it over in any sense. You do notice, however, with that momentum you spent, you do notice that there are signs of, frankly, what would seem to be chemical withdrawal, as if the crew member was exposed to some sort of well, essentially they're showing signs that they might have been exposed to some sort of uh, highly intoxicating substance, and that the body is kind of missing out, as it were. There's a lot of signs of physical stress as well, to which you cannot explain.
The doctor's still alive?
Oh.
Ben?
Yeah. So.
No, I'm just making sure that you're hearing.
No, I think we're both kind of dead silent.
Okay.
Everybody's dead silent after seeing that.
Yep.
That's pretty revealing.
Yep. Well, if you want a moment to process this before reporting in, then we could always go back and check with the uh, other part of the away team. Would you two like to do anything else in this scene, or would you like to make
Yeah.
contact with the bridge?
I can't think of anything else to do in this scene. I think we've gathered the information we can.
All right, Romanov, anything else you want to do?
Just backing everything up. Whatever I can, hard drive wise, I yank it.
All right. Well,
And any data pads, get those.
yeah. So
Put them all in a bio bag, though.
Yep. As the two of you go about your business, trying to um, make sure you capture any other details which remain, we cut back up to the bridge, where Commander Patel and Colonel Sharp are going over the sort of last logs of the Starship Crozier before it went dead, essentially. As with last time, you did learn essentially that there were signs that something impacted the judgment of the command crew in such a way, and that eventually the entire crew and officers were affected. And
It
that,
sounded like Tussaud politely, with quotations, greater marks around it, requested that they funnel all available power down to the last amp onto the planet through the deflector, which would explain the deflector damage.
And where the antimatter stuff went to be?
They used all of it. She says, looking at the captain, or looking over to her XO.
That would appear to be the case.
Which is insane.
I'm not aware of a ship ever completely losing its entire supply of antimatter, at least not without explosive consequences.
Something that I talked to Romanov later about. Mr. Patel, if you can find the initial direction the ship was pointed out when it dispensed its energy.
Don't know how much life I can coax out of this console, but I'll give it a shot.
Well, the battery should last for at least a little longer.
Am I going to be able to pull up that info, GM?
You may be able to at still fairly extensive difficulty, but you can at least get a general sense of where it was emitted. I actually don't. I don't think thinking about it hard, I think that it would actually just probably be safe to say that there might be some residual telemetry suggesting that there was a deflector beam at some point initiated, and that it was in the general direction of the planet. Anything more precise than that, I think, is where I don't know that that data would necessarily exist.
Okay. Yeah. Colonel, I can tell you that the ship was at some point aiming this deflector discharge at the planet, but I'm unfortunately not going to be able to be any more specific than that. Just this equipment is just too beyond any sort of state to be in functioning status. That was some English that I just did there.
No, it's fine.
You did the words good.
Word good.
Yes.
GM, being a natural when it comes to void navigation and whatnot, could I eyeball the movement of the ship and try to roll back time a little bit to see where likely they shot?
I mean, I feel like that would be an extremely tricky role, even for your situation, given the time that's been put in over the past month. You might be able to take what data you have and have the Aegis help you with that in some manner.
Okay. I just realized it has been a month, and that's a lot of orbits. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pack up whatever we can and make our way back to the shuttle. Mr. Patel, if you can extract any relevant information, and I'll take what I can from these logs.
I mean, I assume the information that I grabbed up until now is something that I can back up pretty easily to my hand scanner. Going to go out on a limb. Correct me if I'm wrong, GM. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm not going to get very much else from the computer, right?
I would say that's pretty accurate. Although I will invite if you want to try and get some small bits of information that you could possibly use momentum to obtain information with, then if you want to pose a question of some sort, then you are welcome to do so.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I'm just not sure specifically, like within the context of the scene, what else I would be asking.
Okay,
because I don't know what's been going on down in sickbay. So
Yeah,
Well,
neither do I.
that's fair
Um,
enough.
I'll keep that in my back pocket.
Mhm.
Maybe like pull some isolinear rods or whatever out of the science console and stick them in my little suitcase thing.
Mhm.
Maybe I can get some info from them later a little bit.
Whatever step there is between solid state and duotronic relays.
The computer makes a little doo-doo sound as I pull them out.
Mhm.
USB device disconnected.
Uh, they're still using USB Omega.
all right. I'll just getting up and surveying this surrounding bridge for anything else detail I'm missing. Before waiting for Patel and leaving.
Yeah, actually, did we just in terms of imagining the scene? I don't remember exactly. Are the lights completely out? Are we just on like torches, or
Pretty
do we have?
much. There might have been a like if you asked for it, there could have been a lighting system that the engineer with you brought online. It would not have been a whole terrible lot of light, so it's
Got it.
still
Yeah.
pretty dark.
Patel sticks his stuff in his little science case and stands up and sort of waves around the bridge slowly with his flashlight.
Oh.
And the beam settles on the captain, like not directly in the face, but like at her torso or something, and says, "Pretty creepy."
It never really changes, that creepiness. So you're not the only one. Maybe with grim business, but perhaps if the coast is clear from the doctor, we can salvage what supplies we can from the ship.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be going anywhere in a hurry. And I look around the bridge again.
I will take out of character. I'll take the initiative, and I will communicate to the other half of the away team, and I'll say, Colonel Romanov, we are making our way back toward the shuttle. How is it on your end?
You're
Miss
muted,
Romanov?
Brian.
Brian, you're muted, my man.
Sorry, I didn't want you guys hearing me chewing. Yes, we did. We got a bunch of data from medical. We should go over this in person with you. We found a desiccated body that had been left in the treatment bed.
Yeah, the important bit is probably the medical logs. That's
Yeah.
gonna go. That goes a lot further to explain this whole situation.
And we'll show that to you. I'm gonna grab hard drives as I'm leaving.
Do you notify that it might be nanomachines, like on the comms?
Yeah, it could be some kind of nanotech, so be aware of that.
She'll just like stop as she's lifting up, or as she's like opening the hatch towards of the lift, and just stare at Patel before looking in the general, in the vague direction as she's communicating with the comms. Is it infectious? Are they still active?
I'm not sure. We just found the data. I'm looking at it right now. It's the doctor's log when he identified that it was nanotechnology.
Doctor, is it infectious?
I don't honestly. I don't know. I figure we're safe as is. I mean, we weren't picking up any biological agents or anything like that in the atmosphere.
But this whole crew might have been exposed. So I'll start scanning around right now with the hand scanner. I will tune it based on what's on that medical scan and see if there's any in the medical lab right now.
Give me a reason and engineering roll with a difficulty of 1.
Okay. And can the doc assist me?
He could do so as well, yes.
Okay, just in case. So we don't need to spend momentum on this one, I don't think. Okay.
Question, GM.
Yes.
I know later on there is nanotechnology, but how is the early or the mid 22nd century and the nanotechnology? How well known is it? How actively used is it?
I would say that nanotech is at its sort of most rudimentary levels. It's probably like it's not used for. I don't think that there's a lot of use of nanotechnology outside of very small scale experimentation. It's been a slow pace of advancement for the field since the 21st century.
Is the fear of gray goo still an active concern, or is that sort of like meh?
I would go so far as to say that it's probably a more obscure situation. It was probably, it might have been one of those things that was feared um, in the run up to the Third World War and a little bit in the aftermath. Like there might have been talk of use of those types of technologies, but that largely remained theoretical. It was never developed to a stage where it would be. It remained more in the realm of the speculative.
Okay.
I need to ask if I can apply a focus to this role, reverse engineering. So control engineering, but I'd like to apply reverse engineering. What I'm doing
It,
is reverse engineering what those telltale signs would be.
I think that that is a little bit of a stretch, and also the role is reason and engineering. I apologize if I misspoke there, but
You may not. So
you're executing a scan, so that would be where that comes in.
that's fine. It's the same for me on both. So
Yes, but I don't think I would grant the focus in that particular case.
can't blame me for trying.
Not at all. All right, and Doctor, if you let me look here, that is 1 success there, so that meets. Doctor, if you have a roll, then
Yep.
you could earn some momentum as well.
Reasoning and engineering
Yep.
as well.
Okay. Well, while there's no success on the assist there, Romanov, you do meet the difficulty of the task. Within the radius of your scanner, you can detect no signs of the nanomachinery that was alluded to, including on the corpse of the now deceased specialist LaBelle. It seems as though whatever treatment he received, or rather the Omicron radiation, did indeed degrade those devices such to where they are no longer active or detectable.
Okay, Captain, ma'am, I'm not detecting any active devices in the area. I'm sending the programming requirements to your tricorder just in case you want to check your area. We were near a desiccated body, so that would be a pretty hot zone if these things were radiating off of dead bodies and, floating around waiting to get into the body. But you might want to check your area anyway.
She'll pull out her own tricorder at the moment you say that you transfer the data over to hers, and do a scan as well. GM.
Yep. Reason and engineering.
Would Patel like to assist to make sure we're fucking doing this right?
Yeah, I can come over and take a look.
Cool, because I am terrible at this. Apparently we're doing just fine.
Yep. With that, you receive. So that is going to fill you back up on momentum and give you 1 floating. But between the captain's 2 successes and Patel's 2 successes on the assist, you can both discern, not only on the bridge, but in the probably at least a deck or so down within a certain radius, that there are no signs of this technology. If you wish to use the floating momentum before it disappears, you may obtain information with a question.
I have one.
If you want to bounce over to me, sure. What do you want me to ask?
Can we identify mode of transmission based on this scan data? Meaning, was there any evidence that these nanites ever just float around in the air?
Oh, that's a good idea. Is it aerosolized or
Is it aerosolized? Yes.
Well, while more specific information in terms of the delivery system for these nanobots would be, there needs to be a little bit more, more research needs to be done, and you'd probably need, you don't know the exact cause, but I can tell you that it is very likely not aerosolized.
Okay.
There is
absolutely
no evidence to suggest that it would be.
That's
I want
we're after.
I want to spend a momentum a little bit for this. If you guys don't mind, to add one more question, or if I can use a follow up with that question. Zach?
It doesn't really work narratively, but I could have asked it for free because
Okay.
I can get 2 questions for 1 momentum.
You know, I will be a very nice GM and say that I will allow Patel, as since you assisted in the role, I will allow for it.
My studious nature in looking at the results let me ask the 2 questions.
Yep.
But I will allow you to let me ask the question. So.
Yeah, the rep are all the nanomachines of similar properties, or are they replicating through other sources? I.e., can they propagate from bodies or other things? Does it look like? Am I making sense?
And let's see, you're looking from what you are gleaning from the sensor data that might have been sent to you. I don't think that your tricorder is quite powerful enough to give you a complete sense of this, but it looks as though they could synthesize themselves, albeit with base compounds within or within the body, essentially.
Oh, fuck. Okay. All right. She'll just look over to Patel and say, "Well, I guess that means we're spending some time in the decon when we get back." She'll communicate. All right, everyone, field trip's over. Back to the shuttle.
Okay. Roger that.
And then we'll make our way back to the shuttle.
Okay, so all of you head back to the shuttle, and you snap back into the shuttle pod, sealing the hatch. Was there any more bits of any particular gear that you were looking at scavenging on the way back, such that?
Just any computer relay points that temporarily store data, any backups. I'm pulling like it's Christmas. Just if I know a panel's there, I'll be like, just yank stuff. So, because I want to get as much data about how the ship was operating as the power went down.
Romanov just pulling monitors off the walls.
Yeah.
Worse,
Um,
it's like Zoolander. It's that one scene in Zoolander where Owen Wilson's character like has the monitor. All your lies are gonna come crashing down.
She puts a little AC/DC on as she's walking out and just cuts things off walls.
God,
um,
you prob
as we meet up and are make our way into the shuttle, I will pull Romanov aside.
Romanov has stacks of like computer parts, monitors, and other hardware that she has been just picking up along the way. It is it's getting difficult to stow all of them.
Okay, I won't take more than I can stow safely.
Oh,
She'll
Yes,
say,
ma'am.
Miss Romanov, how are you doing?
Good. She takes the earbud out of her ear and.
the
I
earbud
mean,
that's in her suit helmet.
yeah.
Oh
You
yeah.
never seen
Well, then
it.
I just. Sorry. I just shut off the music.
You doing all right?
Yeah.
You had a bit of a scare earlier. Just making sure.
Oh yeah. That was out there.
Hmm. I
It's not
do.
my first. It's not my first desiccated body in a starship. My family used to work on boomer ships. We had to cut open a cargo bay. They didn't know where a crewman was. We found it.
I see. My condolences. There is one thing I just simply want to mention. I appreciate the pleasantry, but this is not a date. Yeah, I am not my wife. So stick to more proper sir than ma'am. She gives a wink.
You want sir rather than ma'am, correct?
As is proper.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. She
Or
smiles.
or captain, right?
Nods. So it's a res- naval respect thing.
Sure. Skipper?
I'll think about it, she says with a chuckle. And she'll just key onward.
Well, as as you load in, and the engineers pile in with you, um, it is a tight fit, still slightly tighter with the addition of some computer parts, although some can go into the cargo compartments. For his part, I would imagine that Ensign Conley looks back and would say something to the effect of, "Uh, well, I hope you had a pleasant little field trip."
I hope that you enjoy spending 2 hours in decon, she says with a smile.
Oh, I didn't even go on board the ship.
Yeah, but the ship came on board with you.
Besides, there wasn't all that much to see. You weren't missing out on much.
Fair enough. With that,
All right, take us home, Connolly.
yep, with the hatch secured and everybody in their seats, Conley will disengage the airlock and fly back towards the level. You make the trip is uneventful back, and I would imagine that docking inside is a fairly simple process. You go straight from the shell bay in the aft to an airlock or the airlock slash decon chamber, where uh, first there is an initial ray of like slightly higher spectrum or more intensive decon efforts that would impact that would like be especially harsh on the suits, but would still be okay on you, or the suits would shield you from. I would imagine they begin like cycling down to lower levels. So as like various, alternating array of like UV lamps, like shower type situations, and like gas emissions that just spray over you. The you can picture in your mind the room in like complete purplish blue, dim or much dimmer because it's UV, and all manner of like vents going off at different points, and like efforts around that. The ambient noise is probably significant, but you can mostly tune that out and use suit communications if you so wish. So in
Is there
this,
any is there any electrical magnetic pulse that or electromagnetic energy that needs to be dispensed? She says, looking over to Romanov and Lambeth.
Any energy that we need to dispense of or anything?
No, I mean to disable those nanomachines.
I don't know if I can guess that. I've only seen a scan. I'm gonna really have to look at that. That's a big question. I don't think I can do that on the fly, right, GM?
probably not. About the only thing you do know, however, is that the only thing that had been found to disable these particular nanoprobes was, in fact, the radiation treatment.
Okay.
I will point out at a character that this entire smoke and rays and whatnot makes the captain look very uncomfortable. More just irritated to the whole thing than anything else.
So, are there
So
other conversations you wish to have in this time, or anyone take note of anything?
Yeah, I'm gonna come directly to the captain. Sir,
yes, Miss
yeah.
Romanov?
Can I ask you a question?
You're already asking one, but you can ask another.
Have you encountered anything like this before? Or heard about?
Unless, not to my knowledge, this is nothing of this sort, anyways.
Okay.
Now technology is a little above most things that fly through the colonies,
Yeah.
and pirates can't afford it, I imagine.
Yeah, just wondered if you had seen anything from your experience. This is unique.
Certainly is.
Yeah, and how it connects to that planet, I don't know. And there's certainly a siren song addictive aspect to this scenario as well, which was in the medical data.
She just looks more nonplussed, kind of staring off in the distance.
Okay.
I can tell you right now that there are plenty of egos in space, whether that is alien cultures, empires, or other beings. But aside from that, she gives a shrug. We'll just have to see.
Okay. That was it. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Anything for the rest of you? Drone, Ben, anything that either of you would want to do in the intermediate time, or?
No, I'm good.
No, I think if anybody looks over to Patel through his like visor on his suit, he's got his eyes closed and he's just leaning back, waiting up the 2 hours.
Romanov's listening to like engineering podcasts the same way that Scotty would actually read technical manuals in his off time.
Yeah. Well, some time does elapse, and after the medical staff monitoring the decon process is finished, they allow you to proceed through. There are scans that are conducted, none of which seem to show any signs of concern as far as any of your vitals go. So, what would be the first order of business once you are out of decon and out of your EV suits?
Um,
We could
let's have a meeting.
Okay, we'll move every.
Actually, she will. Worse than that, she'll give the engineering science and medical teams 2 hours to research over the materials before coming to the meeting that we'll have to figure out what the fuck to do. So we have a better knowledge of what the fuck's going on.
Okay, I guess for this I would be prepared to, if any of the other officers wish to uh, look into a particular question, then I would allow people to, take lead with their respective discipline and say that there is an advantage conferred in terms of time spent researching the task, as it were. Um, so the question would be, I'll go down the chain of command. First, Commander Patel, is there any particular question that you would want to study in this time?
I guess I would want to take those data disks that I took from the science console and see if I can figure out or glean any information about not what the ship was doing when this whole thing happened, but in the days, weeks, whatever leading up to it. Is there any indication from the ship's logs or anything as to why specifically they came to this system? Was there a long range probe first and then they followed up on it, or
So I can give you that. Actually, that information can be gleaned fairly freely. The Crozier was not the first Earth object that had entered the system, though it was the first starship to do so. Um, before before the United Earth Space Probe Agency, the older sort of technically it predates the Starfleet division, and it still exists in a form. With Starfleet nominally under its control, it's a weird bureaucracy the way that Earth is working things out. But they had some decades prior sent an old Warp 2 probe, or actually no, not even Warp 2. Um, They'd sent an old warp probe out this direction as part of a series of missions to explore systems that had um, confirmed terrestrial planets, essentially. Sort of plotting out where might be some locations that are optimal for colonization, where might be optimal for certain resource development, in general, just exploration as best as they could. HD 85512 was known for having some exoplanets, indeed, among some of the first promising ones that were spotted, although as science advanced, it became less optimal of a system. But they still figured maybe a moon or of one of the outerlying worlds might be optimal. Um, one of those planets had indeed, um, or rather, one of those probes had indeed made its way to this star system fairly recently. Uh, by that, I'd say somewhere in the line of a few months, and it was conducting scans when contact was lost with the probe. The Crozier, being the nearest ship and being on a similar survey course, decided to investigate on its own. And that was essentially what got them involved in this situation.
okie dokie.
Yeah. So going around otherwise, Dr. Lambeth, what would be would you have any particular question that you were trying to understand or task that you would want to investigate?
Not really.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
in that case, Romanov, is there anything that you would be looking to research right now?
Do I have enough data to put together an engineering timeline of what happened into this ship? Like the discharge of energy to the planet, um, or I guess that is question number one. Do I have enough information to come up with a sequence of events of what engineering happened to this ship? How it was in its last
I would
days there.
I would say that you, from what you were able to access in the engine room, and compared against the ship's logs, you probably gathered enough information to know that you don't know exactly how the deflector beam was considered necessarily, but you can tell that there was some serious jury rigging with the warp reactor, and you suspect it would probably be similar throughout the EPS grid in order to effectively channel what was all of the ship's power into a burst from the deflector, and not something that was instantaneous, but that was metered in such a way that it wouldn't destroy the ship outright.
Can I figure out the orientation at the moment the beam was transmitted? That data should have been, the most important data on the ship at that point.
I mean, that would. I think that was generally difficult. It was difficult for the bridge crew to recover, or like not really. I don't think that you would quite have that with your purview from engineering, and I don't think that the bridge
Well,
crew
let
was
me,
able to get that much.
because when the dish is angled at that moment that it's fired, maybe that I can't find that data.
And I apologize. So far as I understand the question,
Okay, fair
like the
enough. Um, then number two, I guess, would be just parsing out the data into medical information so that other people have an easier time going through everything that we have. And then I'd probably look at those engineering parts and see if I can pull any data off them that we don't have.
hmm, well, unless there is something specific that you are looking for, I don't think that there would be much additional insight. Most of them were, most of what you probably pulled were giving fairly standard, like system updates. The ship was in up until it expended its power and was configured to or configured for the deflector beam. I would say that it was pretty much normal operation so far as the ship was concerned.
Okay. The only other thing is if I can get more information on the nanite, maybe additional data points that are buried in the data, like try a strong scan of the nanites in a dish or something.
Well,
Anything along those lines.
unfortunately, the information samples you had were very limited. It seems like uh, Medbay was the only place that was seriously studying this. They have no samples left intact. Or indeed didn't. It didn't seem to occur to the doctor, who granted was not in a right state of mind. It did not occur to them to extract that full array of samples, and they must have been all irradiated, near as you can guess.
That's all I got then.
Yeah,
We can jump to the next player. Thank you.
yeah. Well, so
I wish to ask a few questions if
okay.
I
Is
can.
Would you prefer to do this in the purview at the staff meeting, or is there anything you'd want to do isolated on your own?
I want to do isolate on my own just so I can have a few information to bring to the group as well.
Sure thing.
I would like to contact. Well, first off, as a quick aside, check to see if I got any signal back from the buoy. If no, that's fine. And then I will contact Starfleet, Vulcan, and Andoria to try to get the traffic logs in this area to see what has passed around here, and if there's any if there's any MIA or missing ships, disappearing ships within this area, around this sector or subsector. Um, with my clearance and everything else.
Well, I will say that the comm buoy has you did get a confirmation signal back over that. I would imagine that, presuming you're reaching out to Athena, then there
Yep.
is yeah, she's sent some word out to let you know that she was on the case.
Well, I was. It was more of a like when can we have a communication type of
Yeah.
signal.
Um,
So whenever she's up for that,
yeah.
um,
She
um,
like at this point, I would say that she wasn't quite in a position to do so, but she'll send you asynchronous updates as she can. So
okay,
maybe
happens.
not through this
We're both
adventure. Yeah.
we're both queer people.
Yep.
And then I will I already said what I was going to do initially.
Yep.
Is try to
As far as traffic logs go, um, Earth doesn't have anything that operates out here normally. The only ship that was before you arrived would have been the Aegis. Um, and then the next closest ship would have been the Franklin. But as you know, at least in the latter case, that it's not your normal area of operation. You were kind of off the beaten path from the main colonies in order to rendezvous with the Aegis. Um, the Vulcans do not get back to you. There's apparently part of the disruption to relations in the aftermath of Alpha Centauri. There's sort of a joint communication channel that had taken place. It'd be something along the lines of I wouldn't say deconfliction channel because Vulcan and Earth have never been in conflict, but more a sort of friendly, sort of common information exchange type thing. Earth actually unilaterally suspended that in the aftermath, and the Vulcans or the High Command reciprocated soon afterwards. Um, the Andorians don't typically operate out in this area, but you could be at least reasonably sure that if any are in the area, they will get back to you. That being said, the area of space isn't terribly well. This is kind of a dead area in terms of traffic. There's just not a lot of people that have reason to come this way.
so
Major trade
no
routes are some light years off, and there isn't a viable world for colonization, so nobody particularly cares.
no no merchants trying to cut a few light years off the list or anything like that.
In a lot of
No.
cases, this would be a longer detour.
Okay. Um, and then I'm going. Well, that's all answered. I'm going to, or while I'm waiting for calls back, I'm going to use the uh, Aegis to make that calculation about where the hell this thing was aiming at when it fired.
Well, if you want to run help with engineering and like try to game out a program with the combined data, then I could allow you to do that, and it would give Romanov the chance to cultivate that insight she was going for.
Sure. She will send a message to Romanov what she wants to look into
I gotcha.
and
Well,
what program she needs.
cutting down to the ready room where you issue out these orders. Romanov, as you were trying to work through the bits of tech, you do get that signal from Colonel Sharp. And I
Oh,
Oh.
Brian AFK.
Yep.
All right.
We can touch base with that later. Suffice to say, I can at least tell you that the vessel was in orbit of the planet when it happened. So that would at least bear
Right.
out.
Is the Crozier in a is its orbit still stable? Is it spinning like in sort of like is it
It
drifting? What?
Yeah, it is. So the orbit is becoming more eccentric. It is going further out, and it does have a spin to it. Essentially, it is. Let's see. I'm recalling the.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, it was on a slow slow detaching orbit, similar to the moon.
Yes.
Similar to Luna. Yeah.
So, yes, it is
So the
in
next
a.
million years. Yeah.
Yes, I believe it is in a. Oh, what would be the? I don't recall whether it's a bank or a yaw that would be, or a bank or a pitch that is happening here, where it is essentially rolling backwards from the bow to the aft,
Right.
with its ventral section, facing up first if you were staring at it dead on.
It's tumbling, more or
Yes,
less.
exactly. Slowly tumbling in an increasingly detached orbit from the planet. Um, what little data you might have had would have suggested that before that had happened, it was in a standard orbit.
Okay.
So
All right.
we can move
That's
it back over to the. If there's nothing else, we can move it to the conference room. Is there anything else you wanted to ask?
um
Other than cursing those old scientists.
cursing the old scientists, cursing the more brisk Vulcans, cursing decon being 2 fucking hours. After being grumpy for an hour, yeah, no, I'm good.
Gotcha. So, a couple hours later, after all of you have completed requisite work, you reconvene in the conference room.
So the captain will, just to make it short, the captain will ask every department to explain, their summary of what is been going on with the Crozier and possibly this planet, which we've all had details listened on. But afterwards, she just says, "All right, do we get any more detail regarding the nanomachines?"
Just the one report and scan pick that we found, but it's not a lot of data. It's they were being affected by the planet. These two things might be connected or might not be. Um, but that's about. Other than everything else I've shown you, and she'll bring up the big data points. That's what I know so far. And the whole ship was modified so that that beam could be fired and discharge all of its energy through its deflector dish.
Is there any way we can make that more difficult for us, um, if the concern arises of such a possibility of a repeat process?
Yeah, command lockdown complete. We go nuts. Lock the place down.
Possibly, but this would assume that myself, Patel, or anyone of command could be also compromised.
We don't know if if the addictive biological element of this, and she'll bring up the stuff that Dr. Lambert found, where this is acting like an addiction. They all had to go to the planet. This was biological. Was this created by the nanites, or was this created by something else?
She looks over to the doctor.
I mean, I can't really. I don't think I can really say. We just don't have enough information to go off of.
What would you need to get more information?
Well, probably a sample of said nanomachines would help. I mean, that would probably solve most of the issues we've got here. Yeah, otherwise, I guess. I mean, if something's coming from the planet, having a look at that and taking some samples would also help figure it out. But again, those are both things that are pretty dangerous to do given what we know about what's been going on here.
Can you find out more information if through the machines and technology on board the Crozier at the current moment? If I sent you back with a number of batteries and a few
There
engineering
might
teams.
maybe there might be something hidden down there that we didn't pick up. I guess there could be like. Does anyone know where nanomachines would be likely to survive the longest? So a section of the ship that's more heavily shielded or something?
I meant more of the corpse of
Oh right,
the late
yeah.
Lambert. LaBelle, rather.
Yeah, I mean, eyeballing it, I didn't really, and with a quick scan, I figured I'd got all I could from him, but it probably won't hurt to take another look. And with proper procedures, with like all the tech I'd need, knowing what I'm going into, I can bring proper stuff to look for any remaining nanomachines or trace elements that were left behind.
She'll
Plus,
just
we could
There's
nod.
always
one
see
place.
if there's maybe some other logs somewhere else that we might have missed.
There's
Go ahead, Miss Romanov.
there's one other place we could look. If this stuff was processing through the crew, it might be in wastewater processing, which would have shut down as the ship shut down. And with the cold temperature drop, those samples might be recoverable.
Yeah.
Wastewater testing was used to identify viruses and viral caseloads during epidemics on Earth.
I can imagine.
What? Go ahead, Zach.
I can just say, I can imagine either Conley or Shara making a comment to the effect of, I was hoping we wouldn't go back into a sewer.
What sort of decon measures would need to be established against the possibility of nanomachines? I can't believe I'm saying that.
I mean, honestly, I'm not entirely sure if there's anything you could really do to stop them. I guess an EMP probably works, maybe, because they're technologically based. But I imagine there could be various ways it could work, and if there are nanomachines capable of self-replicating, then they'd presumably be able to punch through something as simple as a suit with ease.
Ooh, resistance could be quite difficult, sir.
but
She
hopefully not
just
futile.
slowly closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, exhales, and opens her eyes again. All right. Going down to the planet would be after I want those tests done. Is there any scans you can make, Mr. Patel, of the surface without drawing too much attention to anyone down there? Any further scans could we make?
I could always attempt another sweep or two. The last scans that we did were pretty intensive and without any sort of regard for being overly passive. But you can always try again. Beyond that, I was going to recommend Captain to just go down to the planet anyway. I volunteer. I'll be the first one. Put me in.
Getting a little excited about going to the surface. Just raise an eyebrow with a small smile.
I have two values that make this a very good idea. Yeah, Patel is like, he's been pretty quiet. I think most of this meeting, sort of like distracted, and the first moment he gets a chance to volunteer to go ahead and go down, like, yes, I absolutely want to do this.
Yeah. She'll look back to Lambeth. I know there's a few methods from personal experience to subdue one's senses. How much would need to be done in a similar fashion to ensure a less likelihood of control from this Tussaud without harming us permanently? I'm asking, out of character, I'm asking for downers. Like, what sort of downers or sedatives, I guess would be a proper term, to neutralize our pleasure centers, more or less.
You're asking the doctor, right?
Yeah. I'm asking Dr. Lambeth.
Oh, sorry. What were we asking?
What sort of... She knows from... I'll repeat. I know from experience there are a number of things to subdue one's senses from overactivity. Is there any stronger or perhaps any stronger concoctions you can produce that wouldn't permanently harm us?
Well, depends what you mean by permanently harm, but I mean, I can think of all manner of things. That's kind of my area of expertise almost. But I'm
something
sure
that doesn't something that doesn't compromise our judgment, but enough so that we wouldn't be afflicted by whatever miss the Tussaud could try to tantalize with.
I can't guarantee anything, but I can definitely whip up a few things that lack the addictive quality and the mental capacity altering qualities, but can do things like deaden senses and stuff like that. I've got a few thoughts. If I haven't got something suitable already, I can whip something up.
Work on that. But work on that on your way back to the ship. Or once you reach back to the ship.
Right. Yeah.
Romanoff, Dr. Lambeth, I want you and Conley to make a way back to the Crozier to look with enough supplies to re-examine more properly the corpse and look into the waste systems for any solid samples.
I'm going to bring engineering teams to set up hazmat level 5 just to be ultra careful with any samples. Just make sure we're safe with whatever we find.
She'll nod. So be it. Doctor, do you need anyone else on the ship? Still go to Dr. Lambeth again.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I can handle it solo, but probably best if I get some assistance.
Then
Anyone want to volunteer?
Yeah, I'm with you. I believe that's
Yeah.
that's the
grab
idea.
Oh,
grab a few nurses or any other medical officers you can, you wish, so long as it can fit within one shuttle, even
Got
if
it.
it requires 2 trips.
yeah, I think we'll just stick to the one shuttle's worth of crew.
I'll send engineering crews to set up the sample taking from the waste area uh, on the other shuttle. So while we're working in medical, they're setting up, a safe area to try to gather those samples.
She'll look to Shira and say, send one of your security officers just to be on the safe side. And then look back to Patel. In the meantime, Patel, you and I, and if we can borrow an engineer, Romanov, I wish to create a program to figure out the exact location of the where the energy was sent on the planet.
Okay. But first help Dr. Lambert, correct?
Well, I mean, you can ask one of your engineers to help us while you go off to go
Okay,
help
great.
Dr. Lambert.
Then GM, I'm going to pick the best people for this job based on their thing, and I'm pretty good at that. I know what everybody's capable of in engineering because one of my values is every meal a banquet, every formation a parade, every paycheck a fortune. I know how my engineers work, so I'll give the best teams to whoever needs them.
Okay, I'd say in your time on the Aegis, you have a good sense of resource allocation, as it were. So, all of that said, sounds like there's a plan of action being formulated. As this is a chance where all the players are together, if there's any other discussion you wish to have, either in character or even in a bit of meta, then I would be prepared to grant that to you. As this is
I'm
a
pretty set.
meetup.
Make sure you have containment, like specialized bioengineering sample containment units. Something that can contain this, that's got a force field on the inside so it can't grab onto anything. We don't know what its capabilities are.
I also, with my sense of strategy and command, I want to ensure that this is a smooth transition. I will fill in that any trip back to the Aegis was going to have a 2-hour decon, so I want to make sure it's a smooth operation. There's little to no slowdown. GM.
Gotcha. Um, so, with all that in mind, first, uh, Drone, Ben, any other thoughts that you would want to put in, either in character or for meta discussion purposes?
Yeah, I mean, I think he need obviously he's going to have just in the back of his head running around drug ideas, but that's not really something he can work on yet.
Yeah, I don't have anything specifically in character. I had more of a meta thing, and it's going back to the sort of task that the captain and I are going to be working on in terms of like figuring out where on the surface this energy beam was going to.
Yeah.
Um,
We're trying to follow the trail of this orbit to find the exact direction this thing was at the moment it released its energy towards the planet, thus having a location on the planet of where it was dispensed.
Okay, just because we've asked the same question twice, and the indication that I got from the GM is that it's difficult enough to be impossible.
That was
Like
for
I guess that's
that was for eyeballing it.
right. That's sort of my meta question on the GM: is that worth the time investment, or for the sake of plot, we know that that's going to be where it was pointed at? Like out of character, I think we all know that. Is it
I mean,
is it a pacing thing if we continue working on this one answer that we already have, sort of de
That's
facto?
fair. That's fair.
I would be inclined to say that while one could just in the realm of possibility, if I were a player, I suppose one could never rule out the odd or the odd hidden antenna that a GM is maybe hiding in like the a secret observation complex elsewhere on the planet. Otherwise, there is only one site of particular interest on the surface.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I guess
my concern wasn't so much that like we don't know the answer. It's just that we've asked the question twice already, and
No.
the resources at the time were not able to come up with a different answer. So I guess more of the meta out of character question: is it worth following up on this question at all?
No, that's fair. I guess my thing was I was trying to figure out like it was in a building, like one of the buildings on that grove, um, and from there we could possibly scan in that. Well, no, because we still don't. Yeah, no, you got a fair. It's not really something to pursue.
Yeah,
I mean, or if we do, maybe a compromise solution would be to montage it a little bit,
yeah.
because I don't necessarily think it's worth an entire 45 minutes of scene for. Like I
No,
don't want to push pacing or anything like that, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say that in essence, the best simulations you could grant would probably give you a sense that it will likely wind up in the one interesting part of the planet. I would say that the exact same difficulties that would come into play with the earlier scan and the amount of time that has elapsed would suggest that it would be very difficult to determine where exactly in that region um, any beam were directed to. As far as what
okay.
you already know in terms of like the placement of structures and whatnot, the only building that is really pleasant or set of complexes you're aware of is a sort of castle or manor type area located near the center of that of the grounds of the habitable zone.
yeah. I mean, the one thing that I did sort of, I guess, would have been the in character thing I would have liked to have tried to do, and the captain sort of indicated that I should be doing that anyway, is maybe more of like an active scan to see if I can really put things under a fine tooth comb on the ship scanners to see
Yeah.
if I can figure anything else out from down there.
Yeah, that yeah.
Like maybe there's, I don't know, energy discharge scoring like there was on the ship that indicates where the power was being transmitted to or something like that.
Yeah. I would say that's an eminently possible role.
Cool.
But that would, yeah. I guess then, let's see here.
Sorry for
Just
being a little
double check.
repetitive in my thoughts.
No, I mean it wasn't like, it's not an accusation at all. It's just like it was an observation that we've asked the question multiple times already. So
Yeah.
Well, with that, is there anything else anyone wishes to do with the do while we are still in the staff meeting setup here?
One final suggestion, ma'am. We set up a cargo bay to look at this sample with independent technology, just in case this thing has capabilities we're unaware of.
We have a perfect test site as we speak. She gestures to the dot on the map before us that shows the Crozier.
Yeah, actually, that's brilliant. I like it. Use their space. It's not on our ship. Even better. So I will dispatch an engineering team to set that up as well.
Okay.
A ventable cargo bay. A ventable cargo bay is my choice.
Well, you have your pick of the ship essentially. Granted,
Yep.
you just need the batteries to run it. So, I guess if nobody has anything else, which by all means, voice questions or concerns now, we can otherwise break off. Going
I will
once.
sit on my chair, sit on my captain chair, and be a captain.
Yeah.
Look like a captain.
All right. In that case, I will just ask real quick for just a couple of. I'll ask, I guess, Patel and Lambeth here to roll me a d20 each just to go for sort of a narrative initiative or something of the sort to determine order in which we do the tasks there. There's a 16 from Patel. And I suppose Romanov could also roll there since this is partly your mission as well, or...
Well, I'm supporting them, so whoever goes first, I might be assisting.
No.
She will flow like the winds through the Vulcan canyons.
Hmm. Well then, in that case, Ben, would you care to give the single d20 there?
Okay. Oh, right. Yeah, just roll D20.
All right. So we will cut around. We will follow with Dr. Lambeth's mission back to the ship first. The
Oh, right, yeah, because lower is better.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, because that is how the low rolls flow here in the Star Trek Adventures system. Um, but yes, we cut back over to the Crozier, where a few of the engineers have come back. An engineering team has come back with you, possibly at least one medical officer, um, and they are assisting you in setting up a sort of small area to analyze things. Would you prefer to work out of just the sick bay aboard the vessel? Would you want to pick a more neutral area? How would you prefer to play this, Doctor?
Probably best to just work out of the sick bay. That's going to have more stuff I can use, I think.
Okay. The familiar helps in this case. So going back to your everyone getting back into their EV suits, you regroup in the sick bay. Aboard the Crozier, the body is as you left it. Here lies Specialist LaBelle uh, in a in the biobed that was just fixed from the engineering chamber, or rather the imaging chamber. Um, I would imagine that Romanov is at least there long enough to help set up power packs before going off to start trying to reactivate the wastewater system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also give him any engineering support he needs right now,
Yeah.
And make sure that containment sample unit is right there and he can easily put the samples in.
Yep. I will say, Lambeth, if you attempt to use any of the computer systems in this sick bay, you are now granted the increased headwind of the fact that a number of computer systems have been pulled out of the wall unceremoniously. Um, Romanov may have been very slightly overzealous on the way out.
She just looks at you and goes, oops.
Oh.
Well, fair enough.
So,
Well, I mean, there's not much I can do about that.
yep,
I'll just get down to work.
yep, yes. Rest assured, though, Doctor, her reward for being overzealous is realizing that the wastewater system is frozen and needs to be heated up. It is a good thing everybody's wearing their suits.
Yeah.
Okay, so with we will say a bit more equipment and at least one more medical officer on hand, which unfortunately we only have one supporting character and that player's character is away for the moment. I'll at least give you the advantage of, say, I believe that I have a medical support NPC essentially or I have that on file somewhere here, so I can at least work off stats to roll a d20 as needed to help you here. That being said, what, if anything, would you want to work out here?
So I think the main thing we're looking for is any remaining like nanomachine stuff that might be still inside the corpse, or like any leftover disease stuff there.
Also, what the nanomachines were doing to their body.
Yeah,
as it were.
and then secondary thing being figuring out, like, I guess, going deep inside the body and figuring out what the nanomachines were doing to
Okay.
individual parts,
Yeah.
and so on.
All right. Give me a reason and medicine roll. I'm going to say for this the difficulty. With the way that with the state of the sick bay and even with the additional equipment, this is going to be a higher difficulty roll, so I think I will ask for 4 in this case.
Okay, getting assistance from someone.
Yes.
Um,
Medical NPC Alpha reporting for duty.
And you can
Yeah.
use a value if you feel like it.
There is also no shortage of momentum.
And momentum.
yeah. Don't think I've necessarily got a great value for this, so I think I'll just burn some momentum. Should I just burn 3 for 2 extra dice, or do I want to go for all 6 to make sure? Because I think at difficulty 4 I want to have at least 4 dice, since I haven't got a
Yeah.
focus that really works.
Yeah, I'd be ambitious. Go for all 6. But that's up to everybody else. Everybody else is okay with that.
Yeah, if
Patel,
everyone else is okay with it, I'll spend all 6.
Patel, Romanov, how you guys feeling?
I will just recall the momentum this time.
Okay.
And
nice.
That is 4 successes there. Let me
And
give the
assistance. Yeah.
yes, let me give the NPC roll here a try. And where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, that's where it went.
We lost a player.
Oh no.
Looks like he might have lost connection.
Well, we'll fix that in a moment here, hopefully. And that was 1 dice too many. You know, that should not be control and command either. Let me. Okay. For some reason, it still wants to roll control and command, and it does not wish to recognize the proper setup here. So I'm going to give this one more. No, it does not want to switch. This character sheet is inexplicably broken, so I will just award you the first roll's worth of momentum.
So 0.
Oh no, it would be 1 momentum because you did score the initial successes. Your roll in itself scored the initial successes necessary to succeed at the task, and I'm taking the 1 success that came into play. That's a 2 there, so I'll even go so far as to be nice. It didn't include the focus did not apply on that as well, or rather the sheet did not recognize it, so I will award you 2 momentum for that success.
Woo.
It was meant to
Sweet.
be
Thank
reason and medicine as well, which the medical discipline for that character should be 2, so you ought to receive that. Let's just set that there, and the GM can fix character sheets later. But yes, with your study here, so far as you can tell as you go back a bit, it seems as though, um, based on the medical records that you found and what you can analyze from the body, I should say the body itself shows no residuals. Well, rather, there are no intact nanoprobes. The radiation treatment, as mentioned earlier, did break it down successfully. But it does seem, based on the scans, that there were. That is, from the records, you knew, of course, that it seemed to be steadily synthesizing nanobots using compounds within the body. One very interesting thing that you note with the comparison of where this, like the crewman's scans from any medical records you might have had, and the records before time of death, indeed compared to where he is now, that uh, outside of being irradiated and having the like having signs of withdrawal from like some sort of intoxicating substance, this man's health had actually seemed to improve slightly. Or you notice that there are higher than normal signs of like certain nutrient and mineral components that would maintain the body's well-being and health otherwise. Now, obviously, something else happened to where these compounds did not bolster LaBelle's health against the series of stresses that he encountered otherwise. However, he otherwise seemed like he seemed a bit healthier from the other like from the other scans. Or he had a surplus of these compounds compared to usual. In the case of some of the mineral substances, it seems as though that and certain proteins and like very high caloric sort of inputs, these were things that the nanoprobes might have used based on those earlier scans to um, try to synthesize more. So at the pace they were going, you don't think it would have been too onerous if it had been allowed to continue, but obviously it was a foreign substance, and given that LaBelle seemed to be suffering otherwise, this would have been a reasonable course of action. Um, so past that point, given the high level of success, are there other questions or clarifications that you would want right now based on that effort?
Yeah. Right. So so basically he was suffering withdrawal symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying from was that related to the nanomachines?
Without it, it's not entirely possible to say for certain, but it seems as though there, at least based on the scans and what little signs you can piece together from what is like what remains of this man, he I suppose hasn't bacteria and whatnot hasn't decomposed him so much, but he was irradiated quite considerably, and that
Yeah,
obviously
which
has
would distort a lot of.
yeah, that has very deleterious effects on the body, of course. But what you can piece together with the scans that you had from different points, there may not be a relationship necessarily with those nanobots. You would suspect it's much more likely that there was some sort of alternate biological agent that was introduced here. Um, could have been exposure to some sort of could have been exposure to some sort of disease or something of the sort. Although their sensor, the sick bay, didn't pick that up, and the sensors don't seem to bear that out. There could have been some other substance that was quickly that dissipated a little too quickly.
Yeah,
Could have
actually,
been an
can you?
environmental factor. There's a lot of possible instances, but they don't
Yeah,
seem
so
to, without, I suppose, more of a sample as well, it's hard to rule it out completely, but the nanobots may or may not be. It seems less likely that they might have been the cause. They're not interacting, or rather, they weren't interacting with his biology in a way that you would think affects those type of processes.
Okay, so we've essentially got two things. We've got the nanomachine that's is consuming parts of him to make more of themselves, and we've got the addictive qualities making him want to go to the planet. And we've got, related to one of those two things, is his boost in health. And I guess related to one of those two things is also whatever loss of health made them need to go through the medical treatment for it. Though it's entirely possible that that is something that was... Because did we get any detail from the logs on what his medical condition that was killing him was? Is it possible that that could have just been something that...
It sounds like he had returned after. What data is there? And there's part of the issue is that the more detailed or rigorous parts of the logs, or where you would expect that detail to be present, would suggest that, well, rather it was being done by the chief medical officer, who by this point was quite far gone, mentally speaking. I will tell you, though, the initial logs do suggest that Specialist LaBelle had actually returned to the ship from the planet shortly after the away team had initially arrived. I'd say within hours of arriving at the planet, whilst other officers were down there, and in in the last day or so was when he began experiencing symptoms.
Okay, so he was one of the first down, and probably the first one, maybe the only one who left the planet.
Well,
no, other people left the planet, but he was the first one down there. And then when he left, he started suffering from withdrawals.
And then at some point, and that's presumably why everyone else went down, was either some combination of realizing they were going to suffer withdrawal symptoms and don't know how to fix it, and also just being addicted to the planet.
There was some
Pretty classic.
There's general
Sorry.
orders to. It seems the captain had the crew go down to the planet. Sort of.
Captain got addicted, or the command got addicted, and insisted in further addiction.
Yeah, precise circumstances are fuzzy, I will say.
Yeah. But we've also still got the nanomachines as a separate thing.
Yes.
Essentially, right? Which I'm not sure how they play into the puzzle so far.
Oh. You only know that they were disrupted by the radiation.
So
and that they were slowly accumulating. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, is it even theoretically possible that he might not have been suffering withdrawal symptoms, and that was just something like because basically the medical officer who was working on him was pretty far gone by the time of a lot of the logs we're reading. Is it possible that he was basically just making it all up, and that there wasn't actually anything medically wrong with this guy? Oh no, but we did find some.
Yeah, to clarify,
some physiological problems.
Yeah, sorry. To clarify, physiologically, yes, it looked like he was experiencing signs of withdrawal. There were some stressors from some of the last readings you had, but no, or like the nanoprobes, the nanobots, however you want to conceptualize them, they did not seem to be interacting with those particular chemical processes. So there's definitely a puzzle of some sort here, but you don't have all of the puzzle pieces.
Yes,
it would seem.
All right. Well, we've I guess I came here to figure out about the nanomachines, and we've figured about something else entirely. But we've got more of a picture here of what was going on.
Yep.
That's something at least.
Yes.
So I guess we'll just wait for the rest of the gang to finish up in the sewer.
Yep. As those hours tick by, Romanov, I hate to disappoint, but
And actually, what I'll also do is I'll start rooting around in their stores for any drugs that I can maybe use for.
you do find refills for a number of pharmacological uses that you would have. It's a slightly
Right.
smaller sick bay compared to yours, but only very slightly.
Yeah.
You have what you need essentially.
Yeah. While I'm stuck here, I might as well, I guess, at least think about toying around with some
Yep.
concoctions.
So as the doctor pilfers the sick bay of this dead ship, unfortunately, Romanov, the wastewater route is not going to give you a whole lot, such
Okay.
that it takes time to warm things up.
The only thing she was really after was, is there any chemicals in there that shouldn't be because of side refuse work, like leftovers from what the nanites were doing? That's what she was looking for, to see if she can give that to the doc.
Or or even if there are any biological agents preserved in there
Yeah.
that might have been frozen.
And it doesn't have to be completely warmed up. A frozen core sample might just be just as good. I mean,
Well, let me think how best to conceptualize this role for you. So I can at least say that there is certainly no remaining nanoprobes, or there's no sign of excretion of said nanoprobes. So they didn't. That would at least give you the sense that they didn't enter the ship in that manner, or that they wouldn't have been broadly dispersed that way.
okay, so that's a good sign, actually. There wasn't broad dispersion of this nanites.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that said, tell you what, I will. It's a difficult thing here is that we're talking about trying to, presuming that it's being processed in a sort of centralized section of the ship. I suppose.
Or multiple areas. Either way, I get to one, and I can just compare it to other data files of our ship, other ships of its size. See if there's anything in the data that just doesn't add up
Okay.
as well.
I will tell you what. I will give you. Let's call this just a simple reason and engine. Actually, science might make a little more sense here. You're technically getting readouts from these machines as you power them up, but you're looking at them to compare like chemical compounds or things that might have been processed through. So I think that is actually the direction I'm going to go with this role.
That works.
I will allow you
Reasoning.
to bypass the roll if you like by spending a momentum to obtain the information.
Yeah, I'd just rather, if everybody's good with that, I'd rather spend one momentum to obtain the information if there's more than one thing there. I can also apply my value at this point. Every problem has a solution. And I think that's what I'll do, because I only see we're at 2 momentum and I got knocked offline for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So I'll spend every problem has a solution. That's, I think, a critical success, right?
Well, are you just looking to do that for the roll route and like bypass that
Yeah.
with? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Do use that determination to bypass the roll with,
Well,
with.
tell you what, we'll consider that there is the create an advantage option essentially that would where that would work out. So I will say that with that you can extract some information from the wastewater bit, and I'll go so far as to give you information that suggests, by and large, the Crozier seem to have a fairly normal profile to that effect. Although there may be some records that suggest some slightly anomalous readings, something that might be consistent with unusual chemical agents linked in. It's nothing like that specifically matches any compound you are aware of, but like by the time the information circulates to the doctor, I'm going to say that with that advantage, it's something that you would recognize as, well, at least potential telltale signs of some sort of like biochemical compound that might have the addictive qualities present, or that might cause those type of addictive qualities into the like there are residual signs basically of that.
Works
David,
for
this
me.
Brian? Okay.
Yes. So those hours will pass by, and that information will eventually get to you. Before it can make it back to the Aegis, however, I feel like we should cut back over to the bridge of the Aegis and allow for a scene to play out there so that Patel can try to better assess the situation on the planet. Let me just move you guys over there as needed. And
I just realized how un-TOS this is. 'Cause I imagine TOS captains would just be like, oh, hey, random garden in the middle of the planet. Let's teleport down there. Bam, done. Oh, shit, we're stuck now.
yeah. It's weird how not possessed by that sensibility Sharp is, I suppose. But oh
I
well.
mean, that sounds like that's kind of what the previous group did, though. So the last ship went, great, let's go down to the planet and have lunch here.
Yeah.
And then everything went badly for them. So
This is
we
what
definitely
happens
shouldn't
when
be
the
doing the
makers
same
are in
thing.
charge, I guess. But anyway, back aboard the bridge. The hours are steadily ticking away on the Aegis, and you are waiting for a report from the crew. In the meantime, you do have the chance there, Patel, to conduct a scan if you wish, and
Yep.
any other bits of interaction you'd want to carry out with the crew here.
So I think what I would be doing in the scan, like I think the way that I imagined it before is that they were just like much more standard sort of sensor sweeps. But what I'm looking for now is like the telltale signs of like the energy transfer, or like looking for things that maybe stand out because they aren't there, not things that stand out because they're there. If that makes sense, like trying to find like the
I
like
I see
the little anomalies.
I see exactly what you're going for, and with that degree of precision, I'm actually going to reduce the difficulty of this task. So at its base, I would have gone for 5, but your precise wording has earned you 4. And then, on top of that, the advanced sensor suite aboard the ship will reduce the task to a difficulty of 3. So please conduct a reason and science roll, and the ship may assist you if somebody is willing to roll for the ship's sensors and science.
Also going to spend 1 momentum to upgrade for an additional dice.
Cool.
Okay.
And I also have technical expertise, so I can re-roll any one of the. I guess it's any one of the d20s, right? It says when it's a task that's assisted by the computers or sensors. Does that have to be the assist roll, or can it be anything from the in the entire dice pool?
I take it as a d20 in the entire dice pool.
Okay. I don't think any focus would apply. Did you mention there was like some kind of like atmospheric thing that was stopping us from getting really detailed scans?
There is an energy field surrounding the area that is considered habitable.
Would meteorology help?
Hmm, an
Bit of a
interesting,
stretch.
an interesting application, and I will allow it. And that is 4 successes on its own there. You can re-roll that 0 as well, or you can wait for the ship roll. Who would like to take on the ship?
I'll take on the ship. Why not?
Okay. Give me
Where's
sensors and
ship
science,
is?
please.
Sensors. Yep. And science already go. All right. Let's go.
All right. Well, Patel, with your technical expertise, you can re-roll one of those d20s. Okay. And with that, that is 5 successes. So, um, well, oh dear. Romanov, you appear to have disappeared from the roll 20.
Hold on. Yeah, I had trouble. Let me make sure I'm logged on. I thought I was back on.
Yes, well, you are back on the Discord, but you are absent otherwise.
Okay,
So,
I'm back.
yep. With that, with those 5 successes there, that is going to net you back. That is going to net you back 2 momentum. So, and I think you spent 1 there with the. You spent 1 there on the roll. So, since Romanov didn't drop one of the 2 that were in the pile, I'll just assign 1 there.
Okay.
But we're all good there. Um, so Patel,
Are we at 3 or at 4? We're at 4, right?
no, you should be at 3 momentum.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. So Patel, what you glean from the sensor scan is indeed that there are no signs of where the beam would have taken place. It is worth noting, first you have to go through a bit of a process in order to modulate for the atmospheric interference. Some of that is static discharge in the atmosphere, which in itself is very unusual. It's actually very strange that this planet has retained an atmosphere at all. Um, as a planet orbiting a K-class star, the X-ray and ultraviolet, or like it's a higher frequency ultraviolet radiation. Uh, the cloud cover and indeed any signs of fluid should have actually probably baked off of this world or been like absolutely rendered non-existent. Um, honestly, depending on the phase of exposure, it probably should have gone sometime in the past several thousand years, something of that nature. That would at least be the smallest margin that it could have happened in. Um, but yes, the something about the static charges actually seems to be inhibiting the dissipation of the atmosphere, as it were. The surface around the rest of the world is quite barren, but it still seems to retain at least some element of cloud cover for reasons that you haven't fully discerned here. Within the zone here, more directly pertaining to the scan that you are running, it is unusual because not only are there very little signs, there's no, really, for all intents and purposes, sign that an overcharged deflector beam hit anywhere on this planet, um, but it seems entirely too temperate. The weather patterns in this area seem to be circulating in a relative stasis of sorts or very steady state. There's very little in the way of signs of evolving atmospheric dynamics that would suggest precipitation. Um, there's sort of a general balanced and cloud cover, although some areas do occasionally break up for atmospheric purposes that essentially someone would see a blue sky through the occasional break in cloud cover, which is also really weird. But yeah, otherwise, the structure on the planet that you can see has no signs of the energy discharge. It doesn't really show much sign of um, let me think of the best way to word this here. I suppose I can't tell you that much more about the structure since you've had only a very narrow scope of analysis, but everything on the planet just seems to be very sort of steady or stable of a sort. I will add in, you are getting some signs of biological life forms, ample flora, but also some signs of fauna that seem very closely tied to Earth normal type readings. The only difficulty you're having in terms of like determining for certain whether there is life in an area would be in the castle itself. There's a sort of strengthening of the energy field that help contains this area that is creating interference. So there's something else that seems to be making it very difficult to discern whether there are life forms there, but it is well within the realm of possibility.
So, going back to the energy field or like the static discharge, is it something like where I detect? Do I detect like energy generating this, or do I just detect it there and sort of draw the conclusion that something is generating it?
So that's a good question to ask, and as science officer, you do get one free question, which combined with studious, I suppose, would be two. The discharge is actually very unusual in the atmosphere, or the manner in which it is charged. You would expect that in order to sustain something like this, there would have had to have been some sort of active source in, like, since this is across the entire atmosphere, you would have to expect that there was something actively generating this field. But there doesn't seem to be something that is actively doing anything in the atmosphere besides the very narrow zone. Um, in terms of a possible cause for this field to exist spontaneously, no natural phenomena would possibly conform to that. So it is pretty inexplicable.
Okay. Yeah, I relayed that all to the rest of the bridge crew, to the captain. The inescapable conclusion that I seem to be making from this is that something down there is powering some sort of weather modification grid or atmospheric containment, enough to sustain some form of life. And I am now detecting life signs, but I can't explain what. There's no energy reading. There's nothing else that's powering this. It's to put it simply, Captain. This should not be. This is an unnatural phenomenon.
All right, she says that she's playing with her wedding ring, sitting on the chair. She will look to who's the communications officer for the
That would
crew?
be Ensign Crichton.
Mr. Crichton, if you can contact the away teams to see their progress, and if they have whatever they can to make it back home.
Acknowledged, sir. Starship Aegis calling away team. Starship Aegis to away team, please respond.
Away team here.
Oh, hello, Doctor. Hello, Commander Romanov. If you have everything you need, or rather, when you do, please make your way back in. Let's get the horses back in so that we can close the barn door. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be more colloquial.
The porch light's on. It's time to come home. She gives a little smile and a wink.
That was less helpful for me, but okay, I'll gather your meaning.
I I am glad that you would take that. I really should work on
It was
that.
a nice try. It's a nice try.
Thank you, Captain.
Very good. Very good, sir.
Yep.
Yeah,
For-
we're on our way. Look, I've gone through enough crap here. I think I might have something, but there's nothing else here. So this is a good time to wrap.
Yeah, I've got some clues and I've got some drugs, so I'm all good here.
All right. Well, we'll see you shortly and allow Decon to do its work. Aegis out. Away teams will be back on board shortly, Captain.
Thank you, Mr. Creighton.
So shortly, in fact, that we will cut past the decon scenes and allow for later that day, when Dr. Lambeth and Commander Romanov have had a chance to relay their details to the crew, or relay the findings, and yeah, you have slightly more puzzle pieces than you had before.
Drone, I'm just gonna assume Patel pointed that out. But you put it in general. Mr. Patel, you had some theories of where that nanites might come from.
I don't know if Patel would have like that. That was mainly pertinent to what was happening in the poop chute on the ship.
Okay.
Because
okay.
I mean, what goes in must come out, right?
Yeah. No, fair enough. She'll say, "All right, I think we've got whatever we can from not touching the likely source. Doctor, is there any medication you can give the away teams? Which, by the way, Patel, obviously, myself, and she just kind of thinks it over. Romanov, I'd like you there as well.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some stuff. Give me 5 minutes, and I'll knock you up some prescriptions.
Yep. Dr. Lambeth took exactly the pills for this occasion.
Yeah, do I need to make? I presume I need to make a roll to.
You know, I'm prepared to say that I'm going to reward your little narrative shenanigans and say that you figured as part of your venture on pilfering the Crozier's sickbay that you prioritized some of these compounds and made sure that you had something expressly whipped up that might help with some of this. You know, rewarding fun character moments like that.
Right. Well, this should hopefully do the trick. If you start getting any weird symptoms, let me know. I probably won't be able to do anything about them, but it will help if I need to make another iteration.
It's a good point. Doctor, you're coming along. She smiles.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Yeah, okay.
Commander Shira has the bridge.
Oh, am I getting a promotion now?
Lieutenant Shira.
Damn, that was going to be quick.
Well, if the entire wave mission managed to be MIA, then I'm sure you'll get the acting field commission. In any case, let's get going.
All right. Unless you say otherwise, we can either say Conley joins you or no named shuttle pilot crewman
No name
Ricky.
shuttle pilot.
Yes.
Conley will stay up there.
Gotcha. So, yes, with that, the away team, I presume, once again, full EV suits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And some emergency decon equipment.
Mm. There's a
I don't
limit
think
to.
there's. I
Yeah,
I
keep
don't think
this,
we're having enough. One, I don't think we're enough room on the shuttle. Two,
Oh no, I'm merely talking something you can put on your belt. That's all she grabbed. She's not bringing a bunch of stuff.
Some hand sanitizer.
Whatever
The-
the equivalent of that is,
There is one vial of decon gel on the ship that wasn't taken away, and she somehow found it. God damn it.
Yeah, and the only other thing may be a battery. You never know when you need a battery.
uh,
One AAA
Commander,
battery.
I'm pretty sure that gel's out of date.
Is it? I'll look at the date on it.
It's dated from your original tour of service. Somehow also
Yeah,
from the level, which is really odd. How long have you
you're
had
right.
this on you?
Throw it away.
Yeah, make sure you dispose of that stuff properly. I don't think you can just put it in any old trash.
Crichton gets a rubber glove and will pick it up. Safety first. Or latex, rather. Anyway.
All right.
Um,
Let's get this outing going.
yeah. Before you head down, I must ask, is there any escalation you are aiming for? Are there going to be rifles back in the shuttle pod or carried on your person, or are you just sticking to the phase pistols?
Sticking to the phase pistols. We don't need to bring rifles.
Spectacular.
Because if in likelihood, if we need rifles in this scenario, she has enough experience to be like, we won't have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the nuke.
I was tempted, but no.
Yeah. Better to have that on a torpedo mounted on the bridge just in case something truly terrible's down here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shuttle pilot will take you down into the atmosphere. It's a once again slightly cramped ride. All of you being in your EV suits, I don't imagine it's the most comfortable shuttle trip. There's
In typical sharp fashion, she falls asleep, takes a nap on the way down.
spectacular. I presume that the orders were to put you close to the manor, or did you want to land further away in sort of the wilderness, or not wilderness, but the other manicured greens?
Kind of think the manicured greens, as it were.
Gotcha. So the shuttle pod trip down is going to be fairly turbulent. You're going to be rocking back and forth in your seats as the camera shakes. Um, little shimmy every so often, and the occasional feeling of your stomach dropping. Even with the inertial dampeners going, it gets to be a bit of a bumpy ride through the upper atmosphere. Um, as the vessel hits the energy field, there's a bit of a slam, and then it steadies out to very smooth flying, such that the pilot is extremely baffled.
The captain opens her eyes just a very brief moment at the slam, and then close them back up and continues to nap.
Yep. The pilot looks to you and says, I think I found an area decently far away. Are those sheep?
Patel looks out the window.
There appears to be a herd of some sort of white fluffy creatures that appear to be quadrupeds, and a quick peek over the shuttle pod sensor readings do show that they are life forms that very much resemble sheep. Well, it's the nearest clearing, and so long. I don't know if they're whether this is some like secretly carnivorous situation, but I think that they're maybe grazing. I can't tell. They're out in the field. If there's no objection, I'm going to set you down here.
That's fine, Ensign.
All right. The crewman will set you down, and
crewman, whichever.
The officer whose rank and name has not been relevant to this point, as they are
Yeah.
the random gold shirt or gold stripe shirt. But yeah, you will, as the shuttle pod sets down very gently, the engine hums down from its full activity. And once everyone's EV suits are secure, you will find yourselves out in this field. And you do indeed seem to make out what appear to be sheep.
This appears to be baffling.
She'll just turn her helmet head
Yeah.
to give you like a knowing side-eyed look.
Yeah, that really wasn't as amusing as I thought it would be.
Don't try to pull the wool over our eyes on this one.
Oh, such bad puns.
She will click on her internal ship log attendant, whatever, and says, "Ship summon or captain's supplemental log. Be sure to ensure that everyone, sans myself, is put to the brig for terrible jokes."
I'm taking 5 threat from everyone for puns. I'm spending it all back to make puns.
She'll say, "Doctor, Mr.
Oh
Patel."
no! What a terrible punishment.
There's no need to bleed a dead horse here.
I have a phaser.
Oh, at least this isn't Broken Sword. That's where the Gorn puns go. There will be no Gorn puns. I swear I will take as much threat as I wish if you do. My tolerance is once a week.
So, she'll look over to the doctor and Patel and say, "Air breathable? Any passengers along with the air?"
Pull out the scanner and take a quick scan, I guess.
Yep. I'll let you make a difficulty 1 reason and science roll.
Xenobiology or xenobotany?
I will let you use well, I suppose for the atmospheric scan, neither of them are strictly relevant.
Meteorology?
Why not?
Why am I only now realizing I could have made a Dr. Lamb F joke?
Oh,
Oh, God.
Moving on. With 2 successes, that is 1 more momentum for you, and there are no signs of immediate biological contaminants, nothing aerosolized. Otherwise, it seems to be a very pleasant, slightly cool summer day, but for most that are used to living in temperate climates, this is picture perfect.
Everything seems to be in order. No contaminants that I can detect. Oxygen, nitrogen levels in order. Should be breathable.
She will very hesitantly take off the helmet.
All right. So, with that, you get a breath of fresh air, and your instincts may tell you otherwise, but it is quite nice, all things considered.
She will ruffle her own wavy hair and look back around and give a nod. To the rest of the crew.
Patel looks at the other three before sort of slowly raising his hands to the seal of his helmet, waiting to see if anybody else is going to do it before he does it.
Ma'am, suggestion, possibly one.
Sir, but continue.
Sir. Maybe we should leave one person with a helmet on just in case this is that effect of the addiction is permeating this environment.
We've already taken inoculations to mitigate most of that.
Great. Go pop her helmet off. She just wanted to hear your call.
Yep, Patel does too.
Doctor, are you breathing the fresh air?
Yeah, I mean, let's put my money where my mouth is, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's a pretty nice day, all in all. Not so much as like you get a vague whiff of what would be a fresh flowery scent. Nothing your sensors bear out would suggest. Nothing that anyone is probably allergic to here. It's a bit of that, a bit of an earthy sensation. It seems quite pleasant. Compared to Tau Ceti, in your case, Dr. Lambeth, I'd say it is it is in some ways an ideal or inverse from the rougher colony setup. But anyway, so yeah, you're out, footloose and fancy free. What is your what are you going to aim to do?
She'll look at the sheep from home, or looks over at Patel. Some of the colony breeds.
Yeah, from what I could tell on the shuttle's scanners, these seem to be as close to Earth sheep as one could be.
That just gives her like a frown and just a sigh, ruffling her hair again. All right, it's one of those. Let's go.
Question lingering in everyone's head. What are those? But yeah. Are you heading out in any particular direction? Moving towards the manor? Do you want to go play with the sheep?
I'll just head casually towards the manor.
All right.
Do we see any signs of humans walking about or shepherding these sheep?
There are no signs of anything of the sort, just on a casual glance. You may attempt to run an insight check, or you can attempt to scan the area if you so wish.
I will scan the area. Why not?
Okay. So reason, and then I would generally accept science, but if you wish to pitch an alternate discipline, then you may do so. I just want an argument for why you're doing it.
I want to say command because typically with these sort of residences, one would have more structure and like where things are laid out and where people would make commune. In addition to the shepherding right here, or the sheep, there got to be somebody keep an eye on these things. They're not just letting them run loose. 'Cause they are they more or less in a bunch, or are they just sort of spread out?
So I don't think that I don't think that quite gels with the type of scan that you're running. It's more if you were to use that for a role, it would be more an assessment of how the sheep are arrayed, so it'd be a better fit with insight per chance. But if you wish to
All right.
make an alternate pitch on the scan, then
nah, reason and science works.
Anyone else may roll as well if they wish to request one.
I'll assist.
Yeah, for the purposes of keeping things nice and smooth, I will just take the momentum on the highest roll that all of you earned, so that'd be. Oh well, since it's just Patel and Sharp, or since Patel's just assisting there, that will be um, one success. So I will say, first Sharp, just as far as the arrangement of the sheep, they seem to be. I mean, they seem somewhat clustered in a herd, but there are some scattered in a couple areas. There's no signs of any humans or humanoid life signs. You do pick up nearer the forest edge, there might be signs of another life form, something that, based on the bio readout, is a little smaller, possibly conforms rather more to a canine life form of some sort, and it is kind of located near the trailing edge of the forest there. It is at some depth, though, that you can't see it so concretely, but you know it is there.
A canine life form, you said?
Yes.
Yes, like a wolf in sheep's clothing? Or
God damn it.
Ah,
You're half right. And you're rest of the way testing the GM's nerves. But we have fun here.
I hope.
Yes.
All right. We'll just slowly continue towards the castle or the manor.
Okay. Anybody else wanting to look at things as you go here?
I mean, I'll keep an eye out, just look around, but not looking at anything in particular.
All right.
yeah, imagine I'm just like walking along, looking down at my scanner every so often, just to like not scanning for anything specific, just to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is interesting that seemingly a well-replicated segment of a well-replicated segment of Earth life, as it were, is present on the planet, and it could be worth definitely a later examination. That will see, of course, whether you have that type of free time. So you continue your expedition. It is a very slight bit of a walk. Um, but you do eventually find your way through some through a sort of worn, uh, very neat sort of footpath of a sort. So that eventually guides you through some more thickly forested area, and as you come through, you find a very nicely arranged manor type area. There are numerous flowers, many seeming to resemble roses, other temperate plants, I'll say like rhododendrons and lilies of different sorts draped in various ways, creeping vines and trees, um, all very nicely arranged, with colors contrasting in very lovely ways against the green and the stone setup. Seems like quite the nice place to take a vacation. At least were it not for the mystery. Um, but as you are continuing this, a reading of some sort of biosignature crops up on your sensors. And
Is it like
it appears
a
humanoid.
Captain detecting a humanoid signature now on my scanner? GM, is it like coming towards us, or is it just there?
It seems to be on approach now, just exiting one of the castle buildings.
I'll point up with my hand.
She'll just look over and nod, and give a pleasant smile as we approach in that direction.
Yep. And sure enough, you look up and see from this sort of terraced area an older bearded gentleman coming out in some sort of cheesy kind of robed look. Oh, more guests! Are are you also from the Crozier?
Another vessel, but good morning.
Oh, good morning to you! Welcome, 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 welcome to my home, and as for this place, for you as guests, which I shall make feel as much at home as possible.
That is awfully kind. My apologies. I am Colonel Lillian Sharp. These are my crewmen, Mr. Patel, Miss Romanov, and Dr. Lambeth. We are from the USS Aegis. As a player, I keep like my pronunciation for the ship just keeps changing in my head, and
Yeah.
I'm just like trying to force it back.
Aegis is
Uh,
correct, so you're doing just
Aegis,
fine.
Aegis, cool. Yeah, we're from the USS Aegis. I We came here because we couldn't find our companions from the Crozier. Do you know where they are?
Oh, I wish I could help you, but they seem to be all gone, and I was kind of wondering that myself, but well, if you're here to help, then maybe I can help you and you can help me.
There's a very pleasant smile that seeing so many scowls from her, I'm sure the other crew knows definitely either like just herself putting herself on or completely fake. She says, "Of course, it would be lovely to have someone who I'm assuming you're living here, Mister."
Oh, how rude of me. I'm so sorry. My name is Tussaud, and this is indeed the place that I live, with as many as
Mister
wish
So.
to come and join me, for you are all my guests.
Mister So, you have a lovely set of land here. Uh, we'd be most generous. We'd feel most generous if, no, most glad that if you know to be here. Out of character, my brain just died. Um, but where should we? Where should we go? Uh,
Oh,
this is your
please,
land, after all.
please, please, we must sit down and discuss what we can. Won't
Of
you come
course,
inside?
of course. Lead the way, Mister Tussaud.
Yep. And climbing up some stairs to join him, he will guide you towards two large wooden doors into his manor.
I will tap into the tricorder to send to the other tricorders. Is scan for nanites. Uh, keep eyes open.
And as you relay those orders, I think that this will actually be the point where we cut it off, where we cut the session for now, and uh, plan to pick up the story for next time. So,
Awesome.
yeah, with that, I'm going to say, yes, we are signing off here. So, for those of you in the YouTube archive, I hope you enjoyed today's session of Star Trek Adventures Aegis. Sure to check back next week when we'll undoubtedly have more of this mystery and possibly more puns. Uh, Either way, we look forward to playing again and showing you what we have. So until then, this is your GM in the Great Barrier signing off.